Do you wish you had the ability to stay calm in chaos? Can you imagine if your life was more like a Zen rabbit? Wait, what? Well, my guest today, Lori Saitz, is going to talk to us about the Zen rabbit and how you can eradicate stress in your life. Stay tuned. Hey, I'm Hillary Baggett, host of Hill Talks Momentum in Midlife. As an occupational therapist turned entrepreneur after 50, I am on a mission to connect, motivate, and inspire women over 40 to know that no matter what is going on in your body, mind, spirit, or business, you can reach for that dream and know you are not alone as we create the Women's Midlife Network. In today's episode, I'm going to be talking with Lori Saitz, the founder and CEO of Zen Rabbit. And she is going to talk to us about meditation, gratitude, and the impact on your whole experience in life. And don't worry, if you're not naturally grateful, she's got some tips for you. She also shares a little bit about her month-long sabbatical that she took last year. And what she learned was a whole lot about allowing space. Can you imagine having space in your life to take time off, to allow opportunities to come your way? Well, I'm excited that you'll get to meet her. Enjoy. Well, welcome, Lori Saitz. I'm so glad you're here.
It is my joy to be here I'm looking forward to having this conversation with you, Hillary.
All right. Well, we got to chat just a little bit before I pressed record, and we're just going to dive on in. Well, first, I just need to start with, you are the founder and CEO of Zen Rabbit. Can you tell me a little bit about what the Zen Rabbit is and how you came to found that?
Yes, absolutely. So I started my first business in 2003. I was making and marketing a product called the Gratitude Cookie that was based on a family recipe. And it was not my goal to be the next Mrs. Fields, but I positioned it, because I have 30 plus years in background in marketing, positioned it to be a way for businesses to say thank you to their clients and people who sent them referrals. And the company at that point was named Zen Rabbit Baking Company.
Okay.
Because people would eat these cookies and it would be like, oh, these are so good. It reminds me of baking in the kitchen with grandma. And then it would take them back to this Zen blissful place of childhood and all of that good stuff. And so from a marketing standpoint, the name Zen Rabbit, nobody ever forgets Zen Rabbit.
That's what I'm saying. And then you said cookies and I got distracted already. I love a good cookie. Was there a certain flavor or did they have choices?
Yes. One gratitude cookie. It's a kind of a cross between a butter and a sugar cookie, and they're rolled out really thin and crispy, and they are amazing.
Amazing, for sure. Well, and then so Zen Rabbit, where did that name come from?
It kind of came from out of the blue, sort of. Because there was a whole list of names that didn't make the cut, But really, when I was a baby, my mom bought me a stuffed rabbit and put it in the crib with all the other animals, and quickly realized that if she could take out all the other animals, but the rabbit had to be in the crib or I wasn't sleeping. Okay. So as I got older, and there's a picture on my website under the About page of me holding this rabbit. I'm probably about 2.5 years old, holding the rabbit, rubbing her ears as comfort. And she would put me into this Zen meditative state. So I didn't call her that at the time, but looking back, that's what she was.
Absolutely.
She was my Zen rabbit.
You renamed her to fit the role that she had fulfilled for you.
Yes.
Oh, well, I love that, because now we're going to dig right into talking about eradicating stress. And it sounds like, if I'm understanding, your mode of eradicating stress, what's your number one, would you say?
it's a tie between gratitude and meditation.
Oh, okay. Well, I was going to start with one and then get to the other, but I love ties because that's how my brain works. It's like, oh, they're so close.
Yes. Yes.
All right. Well, let's start with meditation.
Okay.
When did you start?
Well, now that we're having this conversation, I've always said my mom took my brother and me to a meditation course when I was 10. Yeah. So it's now known as the Silva method. And so that was my foundation. But as we're having this conversation and I'm sharing the story about the Zen rabbit, like I think I was really doing it when I was like a baby, and rubbing her ears would put me in a meditative state.
Exactly. Oh, wow. That's really cool. So you're kind of crediting again your mom and Zen Rabbit and giving you your first rabbit and you developing it. But it sounds like your mom really shaped your view on how important it is to take time to unplug, maybe?
Yeah. Well, she was introduced to this course. I don't remember how she was introduced to it, but then she took the adult version, and then there was a kid version that she had put me and my brother and me into, and our neighbors across the street, their mom did the course with my mom as adults. And then the three of them were also in the kids course with us. And so we all had this as a basis, but then, of course, being kids and growing into teenagers soon after that, didn't continue practicing it consistently.
For sure.
Because why would I do that? That might be helpful.
Yeah. So at what age did you say, you know what, I've got some resources in here and it's time to pull them out again?
It took a long time. It took a really long time. I would go back to it occasionally, maybe for a week or so, and then I'd skip a few years. And it really wasn't until 2014, maybe 2015, right? So shortly after my mom passed away, actually, I found like I need to find something that's going to help me stay more focused, more calm, just, more even keeled overall. And we had mentioned before we started recording, I live outside of Washington, D.C., where you cannot find, I don't know if there's a city that has more type A people running around like their hair's on fire all the time, competing with how many hours a week they work.
Absolutely. That is maybe one of the hot spots of needing more Zen. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And for a long time, I didn't have the tool. I had the tools, but I didn't recognize that I had them to cope with that. And my husband at the time and I ended up moving away for 15 years. And it was and then we moved back. And once we moved back, I felt like, okay, now I have more of the tools to cope with the energy of this environment.
Okay. Oh, meaning you left DC area
Yes.
and then came back and you felt more prepared and equipped. And is that when you started implementing more of your strategies?
Yeah. Well, I came back to using meditation consistently.
Okay.
And so now I wake up in the morning and I do a meditation every single morning. It's not always the same one, but it's always one really before I get out of bed and get started with my day. Okay. That sets the intention and the tone for my day. And I'm at the point that now that it's been like 9 years, that if I leave the house without doing a meditation first, it kind of feels like, how it feels when you don't brush your teeth and you're like, ooh, that feels weird.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I like that. And is there a length of time you like to spend on average?
It really depends. On weekends, I can spend more time because I'm not like jumping right into work, which, I work for myself. So I put this limitation on myself. I recognize that. But
thank you. Thank you for letting us know a little bit of the internal of that.
Yeah.
You do have the control, but at the same time, there are all these pressures of work and demands.
Yeah. Yeah. So sometimes it'll be 10 minutes and sometimes it'll be 35 or 40 minutes. It really depends. Sometimes I get into a mood and I do a lot of guided meditations as well. And so sometimes the guided meditation will end and I'll just still stay in that meditative state and keep that vibe going.
I like it. I like it so much. And I think it's really important for anyone listening to know that there's not a prescription that it has to look like this, sound like this, be this long. It can be variable, and finding what's right for you depending on the day and what's going on. But what I really like is that if I don't do this, something feels a little bit either weird or off. And once we set ourselves up for success for that day, and you find that rhythm and that those kind of series of rituals or routines to make for that success, I think that's great.
I love that you just emphasized that it is really about finding what works for you. Because I teach people that all the time. People are like, oh, I'm not good at meditation because, and then they have all these reasons, can't clear the thoughts in my head. They have a preconceived notion of what meditation is, that it has to be an hour in silence, sitting cross-legged on a mat with no thoughts running through your head, which is virtually impossible because we're human and that's what happens. But it really is about finding what works for you. Some people, meditation could be walking in nature and just paying attention to what you're seeing, what you're smelling, what you're hearing. And, doing it without electronics is the key there. And for some people, they need to be moving for a meditation. Some people like to sit down. I like lying down when I'm doing a meditation. But it's really about finding what works for you. Are you a coffee drinker?
I am now. In the last 5 years, I've started drinking coffee.
Okay. So I'm not really a coffee drinker. I'm a tea person, but I liken it to some people like Starbucks. Some people like Dunkin'. Some people like a private, local brand, whatever it is. It's what do you like? What works for your taste buds? Yeah. And meditation is the same way. There've been show that 3 minutes, as little as 3 minutes a day, has benefits.
Absolutely. And for people that even make their own coffee like me at home, you might like cold brew. You might like the AeroPress. You might like the espresso. You might, it's even how. Mm-hmm. So it's not even what you like, but how you like it. So yeah. I really like, and with your tea, some people like to steep theirs. It might be in a certain kind of little mesh basket. Some people might have a tube. Some people there's so many different ways.
And there's tons of different kinds of tea too. So yeah. And it's some people are going to get into that meditative state when they're journaling or they're coloring or they're, swimming can be very meditative. And so again, there's just so many different ways. It's figuring out what works for you.
Well, and so often as we age, we need to connect with our bodies and our minds to kind of assess and reflect of what's working and what's not. Well, I think that's a great lead in to gratitude and its impact, because that was your second favorite, right?
Yep.
Tell me about, for you, how you implement gratitude in your practice.
I have become a naturally grateful person. I wasn't always. And so we can talk a minute too about the fact that not everybody, I believe babies are born, they're open books, right? They're completely clean slates. And so I think that they are grateful babies, but then somehow it gets conditioned out of us because we get taught to find things to criticize and complain about. And that washes over the gratitude part, and that becomes the focus. And so if we can take back and put our focus on the gratitude, things turn out so much better. Like what you focus on is what you attract to you. That's the law of attraction, but that gets all twisted. But that is how energy works. And that's science behind that. What you think about, you will attract. What you focus on, you will attract more of. So if you're focusing on things to complain and criticize about, don't be surprised when more things to complain and criticize about show up in your life. Right. Alternatively, when you focus on things to be grateful for, more things to be grateful for show up in your life. And so I have this great exercise I'd love to share with you about how to refocus yourself on gratitude, and this will lead you to becoming more naturally grateful person.
Awesome. Shall we dive in?
We shall. First, let me ask you, has something happened in the past day, 3 days, week that you were like, God, I can't believe this is happening?
Oh, yes. Every day. Yes.
Every day. Okay. Do you want to
Just
share what it was?
being honest. No, I mean, there is something every day. It's always different. Let's see. I will pick one. Okay. Food was left out, and I'm kind of huge about food safety.
Yeah.
And something was made, and I was grateful that it was made, but it had been sitting on the counter. And I thought, oh, and I didn't make the food, and I also didn't leave it out.
Yeah.
So I'm totally willing to accept ownership and responsibility when it's me doing it. So, yeah.
Okay. All right. So you kind of did the exercise, but it was a little bit backwards. So the thing that triggered you was food. Somebody left food out on the counter, and that makes it sets me off, and I'm angry about this, or it irritates me. Next time it's, I'm complaining about this thing, but I'm grateful that someone made some food. I'm grateful that, yes, that someone else made food for me, but I'm grateful that we can afford to have such high quality food. It doesn't even necessarily have to be related to the thing that you were complaining about. But I'm grateful, that it's a beautiful day outside.
That's right. It doesn't have to be directly related. And I find if I complained out loud of like, you've got to be kidding me, that I need to do the gratitude in kind of that same way to kind of match or mirror or mimic the thing of like, okay, thank you for making food. Okay. And so I have to kind of give that same kind of attention to the gratitude that I gave to the frustration or complaint, right?
Right. And so by using the word but after the complaint, so have you ever heard that you should not use the word but? Yeah, because it negates the first part of the sentence. Hillary, great podcast, but next time you should do this. Well, you didn't even hear the compliment part. Now you only heard what you should do better. That's why they say the proverbial they. In that case, it would be and. Great podcast and. Might I suggest? In this case, we're using but intentionally to negate the first part of the sentence, the complaint, and to then focus only on I'm grateful for. And the more you do that, the more you practice this exercise, and anyone, as you're listening, you can start right now doing it. The more you do it, the more you do it, the more you do it, the more naturally you will automatically go just to the gratitude part.
So right now you're offering the listeners an opportunity to practice right now. Consider one thing that's happened to you in the last day up to week and what it was, and use that system of say what it was and say, but I am grateful for, right? Because to negate that negative complaint or criticism.
Yeah.
I love that. And I will say it works. And even when you had said, hey, that's a great podcast, but I was already like, well, let's just convert that. And in my head, I was like, Lori just gave me a compliment. I'm going to receive that and say, thank you. And next time I can do something different.
Yeah.
And I love that. That gives us really tangible things. So listeners, let me know if you tried that and did it work? What change did you notice? Because it's in the pausing and noticing that we notice the progress in moving forward. Wow.
Yeah.
It's really good.
Yeah.
Well, it kind of sounds like we've already answered my next question. What was going to be, what if you're not naturally grateful? But do you have anything to add to that?
It's a matter of practice, just like anything else. I mean, meditation is a practice. So you're not going to be great at it the first day you start. You're building that muscle and you get better at it. And it's the same with gratitude. You're building that muscle. You will start seeing more things to be grateful for. You'll start recognizing them as you practice this.
Absolutely. And I will even say, even if you've gone a while without it, say you used to be really good and you're doing it every day for 9 years like you, and some life event happens and you fall away from it. Well, the first day back is not going to be just like in year 9. Right. And so giving ourselves that little bit of space, and I like to just say grace, like some breathing room of like, I don't have to be perfect at this. Now I'm a video game player. I play 80s video games and I have a giant machine downstairs.
What? So
just
fun.
just today I was playing one and I hadn't played it in a while. And I think it applies to this, and that's why I'm bringing it up.
Mm-hmm.
Is that, okay, I got less than 1,000 points the first time playing it. And I worked on my self-talk. I'm like, well, you know what? You haven't played this game in days or weeks. So try it again. And I got 20,000 points. Okay, great. Do you want to play one more, or are you going to let it go, Hillary, as I'm talking to myself?
Mm-hmm.
And I thought one more time, and then exponentially better. So it's just the encouragement that whatever you do, it's okay if it doesn't feel great or feel good the first time. Keep going.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely. I'm coming over to your house after this.
Okay. That's right. We'll have a tournament. Do you have a favorite video game? Do you remember any from the 80s?
Yeah, Pac-Man. And what was the one with the Atari Space Invaders?
I have them. I have all 60.
Oh my gosh.
In one machine. What? And technology has improved so much that they can put 60 games in one stand-up machine. And it is perfectly, the joystick has perfect. Anyway, I am really grateful for that. When I researched and found it, it was great. So back to, your mission is to teach the world to be calm and grounded, no matter what is going on, no matter what. And I know you've said that there's some research that backs up the positive effects of meditation and gratitude. Is there anything you wanted to talk about what that research is showing?
Yeah, both of those tools, we'll call them, can help increase the feel-good chemicals from your brain, serotonin, dopamine, and what's the other one? Oxytocin, yes. And reduce cortisol, which is the stress hormone.
That's right.
And so from a physical standpoint, you're helping your body by doing these things. From an emotional standpoint, you are settling everything in your mind. You're helping rewire your brain, for one thing, to see the good things to be grateful for. Rewiring. So when you are it actually helps improve your focus. So I want to step back for a second, because when we're talking about in meditation, people think they're not good at it because they can't stop the thoughts in their head. And that is a natural part of being human. We're going to have thoughts running through. And when you're meditating, the thing to do is to recognize, oh, a thought is starting to carry me away. Let me come back to the sound of the meditation teacher's voice, which is why I like guided meditations. Or let me come back to the sound of the music, or just focus on my breathing. Let me come back to that. But you might have to do that every 10 seconds, especially in the beginning. And I don't know that you ever get to a point where you never have to do it. You might get a longer space in between. However, research has shown that bringing yourself back piece every time you go, oh, thought carried me away, got to come back. Thought carried me away, got to come back. That helps you refocus, and it makes you better at focusing when you're outside of a meditation working on a project. This is how meditation improves your focus and makes you more productive. And so when people say, I don't have time to meditate, what they don't realize is you're actually making an investment. And so when you're working on stuff, like let's say there's a project that maybe would have taken you 2 hours, but you spent 15 minutes in a meditation. And so now your focus is better, and the project only takes you an hour. You just bought yourself 45 minutes of time.
Exactly. People think, and the same could be said for exercise or cooking, of I don't have time for these things that are actually good for me. Yeah. And sometimes my more recent question is, are you loving yourself more than you're loving either these other people or these other roles or this job?
Yeah.
Because meditation is giving us that presence, that grounding to be where we are in our bodies in this present moment. And then our nervous system and our brain connects to say, we are safe and we are calm and we can do anything.
Yes. And when you are in that place of being, you can respond to things that are happening around you instead of reacting from the reptilian brain place where you're jumping like, what? Hair on fire response all the time, which nobody wants to be around that. So now you can improve your relationships because your interpersonal skills become better.
Absolutely.
Your creativity is enhanced. You can come up with your problem solving abilities are enhanced as well. And so it's not that the circumstances around you are changing. Like people can still be crazy around you. You're still in the same work environment, perhaps, or, nothing around you is changing, but you are changing and your response to the things are changing. And then that in turn kind of changes what's happening around you, but only tangentially. Wayne Dyer had a quote where he said, when you change the things you look at change.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I was just noting and taking a note on changing response and changing reactions. And it kind of sounds like you're saying when people are working through that self-talk of, oh, I'm getting distracted, just keep going. And what they may notice is, oh, instead of getting distracted like every 10 seconds, then maybe I only got distracted every 30 seconds or every minute. And it's just noticing that small change and small improvement that also gives us that positive feedback, those feel-good hormones of like, not only am I doing something good for my body and my brain, I'm getting good at it.
Yeah.
And that's a really deep, important thing for all of us, for sure.
Absolutely. And you're rewiring your brain. So that could be a whole nother podcast episode, but how we've been wired since birth to believe that things have to be hard, difficult. We have to be productive all the time. Otherwise we're not worthy, achievement, all of that. And this helps calm some of that down and also allows you to hear your inner voice. What is your inner voice saying? Whether you call it your intuition, your inner voice, your true self, whatever it is, we're so influenced by outside circumstances, but also outside influences, parents, teachers, partners, friends, media, social, all of that wants you to hear what they're saying and do what they want you to do. What do you want to do? What is your inner voice telling you?
I think that's a lot of the experience for people over 40, 50, 60, and sometimes throughout the lifespan is how do you find that space and place to get in touch with and connect? Who am I? What do I like? What do I really want? What is helpful? What is hurtful? And let go of those, whether it's old relationships that aren't serving you, and go towards that easy, light, happy, not happy in the superficial way. I mean, contentment and joy and groundedness in who we are.
You are speaking my language. That's exactly it. And only if you can hear that inner voice, that's the only one that matters. Like you're the only one who can hear it.
Well, we need to make sure that it's the positive inner voice. Some of us call it the inner wisdom. Some of us call it, our best self, the inner physician. But knowing that the mean girl, for me, at least, sometimes she's so loud that I need to put her in a quiet room and time out and just say, right now I'm focusing on this and moving forward instead of spinning and giving her a voice.
Yes, I appreciate that you brought up the mean girl because the mean girl is not you. It is not your inner voice. Those are voices and opinions and beliefs that were installed in you by someone else. Because your inner voice, your inner wisdom, your inner truth is never negative.
That's right. I love that. Well, we've talked about so much with meditation and gratitude and the research. And I want to kind of change topics and pivot a little bit because you and I have done something with a very much a shared experience, but not exactly at the same time. And you took a month-long sabbatical. And I think you took it with your cat. Is that correct?
I did.
And I think you wrote a book about it. Am I reading my notes correctly?
I wrote a chapter in a collaborative book.
Okay. Chapter in a collaborative book. And I love that you shared about taking and making time for yourself and to travel. What would you say were, well, I would say, what was the impetus or the activating event that you said, I'm taking the sabbatical?
Mm-hmm.
And then if there were 1 to 3 main things of like, okay, these were the biggest lessons that I took away. So what was your kind of factor that said, this is the time?
I alluded to it a little earlier. I was doing all the work. So I'm an entrepreneur. I run my own business. I was doing all the things that I thought I was supposed to be doing. And I wasn't getting the results that I would have liked to have gotten from doing all that work. And so because I am a high achiever, that I just went, well, it's not working. Let me do more of it.
Guilty as charged. Yes.
Right. And that didn't work either. And they say things happen in threes. I had a conversation with somebody, well, she doesn't host her podcast anymore, but she and I had a conversation, and she was taking off the whole summer. In fact, Brene Brown had written an article, and this was about a year ago, June around of 2022. Brene Brown had written an article about how she was taking off the whole summer and giving her staff the whole summer off too. And so this person I was talking to referenced that article, and she said she was going to do the same thing. She was going to just basically burn her business down because it wasn't working at all for her, and just take the summer off and see what happened at the end. I wasn't going to burn my business down, but I did need a break from it. Yeah. And when I first had that conversation with her, I was like, oh, that would be cool to do. But I don't know that I could do that.
Right.
I had a second conversation.
Takes 4 weeks off or 6 weeks off in America, right?
Yeah, exactly. And then I had a conversation with another person, and we were talking about gratitude, and he shared a story of something that happened in his life that he had been off the path of gratitude. He's somebody who's also known as a gratitude expert in the world. But he got a little bit lost, and he ended up in a dark place. And so I thought, well, he was able to do some stuff. Maybe I could do it. And then I had a third conversation with somebody who was celebrating. She had just sold her house, and she was about to take off in an RV to go wherever she wanted.
I love it.
And I was like, well, am I the only person here who's not taking a sabbatical? What's happened? Then I started asking the question, how can I make this happen? Or how can I do this? Not what, I can't, but how can I?
Right.
And the cat, she was 19 years old, and she had kidney disease. So she needed sub-Q fluids twice a week. So it was like, all right, well, what am I going to do? How am I going to do this when I have her? Can I leave her with a friend? Can I leave her, what can I do with her? And I actually have an animal communicator friend who speaks to animals and translates like what they're saying. And so she said, no, Panther would rather be with you than anywhere else. I'm like, okay, I guess I'm doing a road trip with the cat. And I knew because she's been on road trips with me before. I knew she was a good traveler. Good. So we went on a month-long road trip at this time last year, August of 2022, road trip sabbatical. And where we went was largely determined by where I could bring her. So we started out at a friend's house. The friend had said, yes, bring her. It's perfectly good. And traveled around to visiting friends and staying at hotels or Airbnbs that allowed cats.
Excellent.
And she and I had the trip of a lifetime.
Oh, fantastic. Did you have a highlight or two of location?
Yes. Anna Maria Island on the Gulf Coast of Florida. And I realized I just put this out there to the world, and now everybody's going to show up there. I lived in Palm Beach County, Florida for 11 years. And at one point, in the East Coast of Florida is not my vibe. Okay. But I had never spent much time over on the Gulf Coast, the West Coast of Florida.
It's like a different state, right?
It is. It is, absolutely. And I just fell in love with Anna Maria Island. It is my screensaver on my phone, on my computer. The pictures are amazing. I do a girls' weekend trip with my 2 high school girlfriends every year. And this year, we're going to Anna Maria Island because they have not heard me shut up about it since I was there last. So
fantastic. Well,
Yeah.
were there, one or two lessons
Yes.
learned that were like, okay, I needed that time off and here's what I carried forward with me?
Absolutely. What I learned was that when you allow yourself space, and this is the key, it's allowing, like we were talking about working so hard. It's nothing about working so hard. It's about allowing ease and flow. And when you can come and live from this place and come from this place, everything falls into place so much easier. Coincidences start showing up and synchronicities and things come out and again, like nowhere. And what happened for me was I was introduced to 2 of the biggest business opportunities to ever cross my path while I was on this sabbatical.
Wow.
Yeah. Crazy. One of them didn't pan out, and that's okay. But that came to me while I was literally sitting on the beach.
Wow.
Yeah. And the other one is the one that I'm involved in now, which is amazing. Like, and I could have never imagined these opportunities. Like there's nothing I could have done to foresee them or to make them happen or to work towards them.
There is such power in sometimes the word surrender is a trigger word for people. Yeah. So I try to be careful on that, but a releasing, a letting go of a not trying to grip on. Yes. And so for some people, they just need to, could you maybe loosen your grip or just notice where the tension is and, maybe go floating on the water kind of surrender, not a, hands tied behind my back and someone taking me to jail. I'm not going that far. But I really love how it's all kind of led to this moment. And because I just returned from almost a 3-month sabbatical, which that was the question that so many people asked me, wait a minute, how did you do that? And I said, you won't believe how little it cost compared to what I did. I mean, 6 weeks free lodging, pretty amazing for sure.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Where there's a will, there's a way. Because I got the same thing. Well, I can't afford to do that. You're just lucky. Yeah. No.
Yeah. And it's like, well, there is some strategy in it. There's some intentionality in it. And it's changing the mindset of, well, what is the dream? Yeah. Where is it to go? Some people, they just need to start with, I need to try one day or one weekend to imagine what it would be like to have a day where I got to choose to eat what I wanted, go where I wanted, and do anything. Yeah. Now, some people are not going to take the amount of time I went off or go as far as I did because I traveled to Europe for 10 and a half weeks. And that's okay. Again, it's finding what's right for you, kind of going back to our meditation practice and for gratitude. And whether you're outside and moving, whether you're still, whether you're laying down, whether you're seated, finding what's right for you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, as we bring this time, which has been wonderful, to a close, I just wanted to ask you to tell us just a little bit about your Staying Calm in Chaos program, because that's so amazing.
Yeah, that was developed as part of this business partnership that I was introduced to while I was on the sabbatical. Somebody that I had known for a few years, met at a conference years before, reached out to me and said, hey, I'm working on this project with personal development, different founders who have personal development programs and offers, and I'd love to bring you into it. And that's how, and then I created this Staying Calm in Chaos program from that or for that, but based on the things that we've been talking about today, about how to incorporate gratitude and meditation and acceptance and into your life in a really easy way. This program is 10 audio sessions that are about 10 minutes each. And then there are also 5 10-minute meditations that come with it. And it's really all about how to find and implement all of these concepts that we were talking about today into your life in a really easy to digest way, easy to digest and implement.
Fantastic. Wow. Now, how could people find out about this? Can you tell us?
Yeah, the easiest thing to do is to go to zenrabbit.com, and there's a link there right on the front of the homepage for staying calm in chaos, and just click that link and it'll take you to the page. But yeah, that's really, and it's super affordable price point because I want so many people to have access to this.
Well, thank you for being so thoughtful on accessibility. And thank you for just being here today, for sharing your gifts, your lessons learned, your adventures, and all of your growth. I mean, you're living what you're teaching. So it's not that you just had this idea, and we don't have to be perfect. We just have to get going, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I am living it, and I am teaching it to myself every day as well. It's not like I got it all down either. So we're all in this together.
Awesome. Well, Lori Saitz with Zen Rabbit, thanks so much for joining us today.
My pleasure.
All right, here's where I need your help. I want you to help me let women entrepreneurs and business owners who are over 50 know that there is a place where they can come to connect, learn, and get inspired at the Women's Midlife Network. You can share this episode with them today, whether you're clicking those 3 dots to share the episode or following that little box with the arrow up. Thanks so much. Well, there were so many things that I learned from Lori today, and I'm so grateful that we can start a meditation practice and we don't have to do it perfectly or for a certain amount of time. I have to admit, I was kind of all about those gratitude cookies, but I don't think she makes them anymore. And I am reassured to know that if I don't naturally feel good at something, like practicing gratitude, that I can exercise it like a muscle and keep cultivating it. I really liked that she is really willing to teach the world how to be calm and grounded no matter what is going on. And I'm kind of curious about that place in Anna Maria Island in Florida. How about you? Well, I hope that you enjoyed the chat with her. Until next time. Thanks so much for listening. If you've made it this far, I appreciate you being an essential part of the Women's Midlife Network. We're connecting women. We're sharing stories and inspiring change. And not just for now, but for decades to come. I am so thankful for you, and I always hope you feel the love. Until next time, this is Hillary Baggett with Hill Talks Podcast. Let's move forward in midlife.